Hey everyone, welcome back. So we continue our prospect pool overview series today with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the Blue Jackets are a team that, yes, they had an awful season this past year. And look, let me be honest, a lot of that really wasn't all their fault. They faced a lot of injuries and they faced a lot of problems. And, seeing this prospect pool hopefully will make Columbus Blue Jackets fans more hopeful for the future, even though they just brought in possibly one of the coaches that I dislike the most in Mike Babcock. Regardless, they still have a very young pool, and they have some good guys that are going to come up in the roster and do some good things with the Blue Jackets for sure. Starting off with Adam Fantilli, and Fantilli is the most well-known prospect in Columbus's pool because, of course, he was selected in this past year's draft. A center from Toronto, Canada, 6'2", 194 pounds. He won the World Championship Gold in 2022-23. He won the U20 World Junior Gold in 2022-23 as well. He also won the NCAA Allentown Tournament. So basically, he has a pretty good resume for a player there, and definitely a guy who, even though Bedard was in this year's draft, he really was looked at as a really good consolation prize at second overall. But of course, there were those rumors that he didn't want to go to Anaheim, and that's why he dropped to 3 at Columbus. And I'm sure Columbus is not complaining about that whatsoever because Ohio is decently close to Michigan. So that definitely, he's not traveling very far. And I will be able to see Fantilli this coming November, which a vlog will be posted on this channel when that is uploaded. But regardless, Fantilli looking like a very good player for Columbus for sure. Drafted 3rd overall in this past year's draft, as I just mentioned. In this past year with Michigan, he played 36 games, had 30 goals, 35 assists for 65 points. Was, I believe, the player of the year, won the Hobey Baker, if I'm correct. This past year. And he's a puck-dominant player, has great speed, he has great experience, and he looks like already an established NHLer in the college leagues. So it's definitely something good there to look at for a guy like Adam Fantilli. He's great with the puck, he's very fast, and it's a guy you want on your team if you're Columbus. And suddenly, they're looking pretty good down the middle, if we're being honest. And I would imagine Fantilli could even start off on the first line off the bat, playing along with Johnny Gaudreau and some other guys there on that lineup. But yeah, overall, Fantilli now probably the biggest prospect in that pool. But of course, when I make this next year, he probably will not be. Jordan Dumais is the next one that I made. Now, many of y'all would have seen my video that I said that he's better than Connor Bedard. I wasn't saying that. I was saying he has as much points as Connor Bedard did in the CHL. But he was a right wing from Montreal, Canada, 5'9", 174 pounds. Drafted 96th overall in 2022. And this past year with the Halifax Mooseheads, played 64 games, had 54 goals, 86 assists for 140 points. Yes, the QMJHL is a very high-scoring league, but still putting up 140 points and putting up 54 goals is still a pretty good stat line to look at there for sure. If you're Columbus and looking at a guy like Dumais. He's a potential steal there in the 3rd round of 2022, and he's criticized for his skating, but we've seen a lot of skaters come from these leagues and get criticized about their skating and then do pretty well in the NHL, like Luc Robitaille and Jason Robertson are some of the biggest examples there. I'm not saying Dumais will become a Robertson, but he definitely could be a player that, still makes the NHL despite the skating criticism. And yes, that is a thing, but I definitely like the way he's offensively minded and definitely is probably the second best forward prospect in Columbus's pool, unless if I'm forgetting someone. I feel, and I've looked over the list multiple times, I feel like I'm forgetting someone, but I don't think I am. So I apologize if I am, Blue Jackets fans. But regardless, the 3rd prospect, I had to go a little bit more deeper because there isn't that many well-known forwards in that prospect pool. Columbus is much more of a defensive prospect pool. They have a much better defense, and they look much more loaded on that end of things. So the forward core is not the best when it comes to prospects right now, besides Fantilli and, of course, Dumais. But I found Luca Del Bel Beluz. I thought that was an interesting name there. Center from Woodbridge, Canada, 6 foot, 179 pounds. Drafted 44th overall in 2022. I just realized a lot of these guys are from 2022. I believe. So definitely, 2022 could have been a great year for Columbus. looking back on it in a few years. But this past year with the Steelheads and the Sting, he played a combined amount of 66 games, played 40 goals, 47 assists for 87 points. Again, not that bad of stats there, and of course a high-scoring league like that. He dekes well, is a good skill, or has good skill, and he handles the puck very well. So definitely a guy who looks like not that bad of a prospect. Probably won't be as big as Fantilli and Dumais, of course, but definitely could be a player that could fit in well in that bottom six, provide some maybe good secondary scoring there for Columbus. That's kind of what I'm thinking there with Del Beluz. So, of course, we'll find out where he goes and his path's going to be. But, of course, as I mentioned, the forward core there, besides Fantilli and Dumais, there isn't many other players there because a lot of them have gone to the NHL, like Sillinger, Chenikov, etc. Like, a lot of them have already made that jump. Ken Johnson, too. Almost forgot about him. Next up, then, we move on to the defense where there's a lot more well-known players. You have David Jiricek. And Jiricek, I've seen as a prospect that probably might be... He's arguably the best defenseman in the entire prospect system in the NHL. He is the best defensive prospect right now, if you want to make that argument. But I think, he's going to take some more time to develop. Like, I compare him a lot to Simon Nemec because Nemec was in the same draft year as him. I think Nemec's more NHL ready right now. I think Jiricek is going to take some more time to develop, but could be a really good player, good defenseman in the future. But this past year, defenseman from Klavdolfi, Czechoslovakia, or Czech Republic, not Czechoslovakia. That's not a thing anymore. 6'3", 209 pounds. I don't know why I said that. Drafted 6th overall in 2022, and this past year with the Cleveland Monsters, played 55 games, had 6 goals, 32 assists for 38 points, and actually did come up and play some games with the Blue Jackets this past year because of how just injured they were. He played 4 games, so he has some NHL experience, but I would imagine he probably makes his debut this coming year, or makes his full rookie season campaign this coming year. I really wouldn't be surprised. Great skating, awesome defensively. That's what I've seen in a lot of articles. And as I mentioned, he's going to be that type of player that is really good on the defensive side of things. So, Columbus Blue Jackets fans, he's a guy you definitely want to get hyped up for there on your blue line. The other player was selected in that same draft. It's Denton Mateychuk, defenseman from Winnipeg, Canada, 5'11", 187 pounds. So he's a little bit shorter than most defensemen, but he still has some good capabilities to his game. He looks like a more... And here's the thing. Jiricek is the defensive defenseman. Mateychuk looks like more of an offensive type defender, which is definitely a good pairing to have, especially looking back at that draft. They were both drafted in the same year, so definitely good to get both those guys. He won the World Junior 18 gold medal in 2020-21, drafted 12th overall in 2022, as I mentioned. Jiricek was 6th, Mateychuk was 12th, so they were selected right around the same spots there. He played 63 games this past year with the Moose Jaw Warriors, 8 goals, 57 assists for 65 points. He's in constant motion, that is an aggressive defender, but also has some very good offensive capabilities to his game. So definitely a guy there who will be much more of an offensive defender and probably could become an Ivan Provorov type guy who ironically is now on Columbus, which is weird to say as a Flyers fan, if I'm being honest. But yeah, Mateychuk I like a lot there. Definitely has a good future ahead of him. Finally, the goaltending prospect, and I was a little bit hesitant to put him in the goaltending prospect because he did play a good amount of games this past year. But if I'm doing it the regulation, I did it. He's got to have played more than 20 games, but he's not. He didn't. It was Danil Tarasov that I have as my goalie prospect. Goalie from Novokensky, Russia. I believe I'm saying that right. 6'5", 196 pounds. Drafted 86th overall in 2017, so nearly 6 years ago. And he kind of made his jump to the NHL this past year and played 17 games. Wasn't the best because Columbus really wasn't the best either. But he had a 4-11-1 record, a 3.91 goals against average, and a .892 save percentage. I mean, it's not the best stats in the world, but honestly, Columbus was not very good whatsoever. So I want to see him play another full-type season before I can say, yeah, he's probably going to be a solid player, but not bad. I think he still has some good potential. I mean, goalies are weird to predict. That he could be terrible this year, but be really good next year. So honestly, it's hard to predict with goalies, so I'm just really going to leave it at that. Other prospects in the pool, there's Stanislav Svozil, and there's also Carson Kulemans. But there's also Gavin Brindley there as well as another forward prospect I could have mentioned, but I decided to go with Luku Del Beluz as another guy there. But yeah, that is your Blue Jackets prospect pool. But thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, down below. I greatly appreciate it. We got more of these coming soon. So anyways, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.